And I wonder if we can just have the faculty that are on today just kind of introduce yourself really quickly. Dr. George, could we start with you?
Hi, I'm Casey George. I'm associate professor in higher education administration. If you hear my dog barking, she also says hi and to apply to UofL. I have been here for about 7 years. I work on issues around tuition complexity and how that impacts underserved students' perceptions of affordability of college. And I also look at sense of belonging among different populations that have been traditionally marginalized in higher education, including even ROTC cadets. So happy to be here, happy to spend the next hour with you all and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. George. Dr. Hancock?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Meg Hancock. I'm an associate professor in the sport administration program. I coordinate the PhD on our side. I study leadership, primarily in college athletics, organizational behavior, and the student athlete experience. So I'm glad that you all are here today and interested in our PhD program.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Engel?
If you hear a siren, it's because they're doing some sort of monthly test here on UofL's campus. So I don't think it's the Russians nuking us. My name's Kyle Engel. I'm a professor of P12 educational leadership. My research focuses on human resource functions in education. So teacher hiring, teacher evaluation, collective bargaining agreements. I also do work on the politics of education and economic evaluations of education programs. And I'm the program area representative for P12 Ed Leadership.
Thank you, Dr. Engel. Dr. Amicus.
Hey all, well, welcome to the session. My name's Jason Amicus, a faculty member in the department. My background's educational measurement, so anything dealing with like the design, development of any kind of surveys, tests, questionnaires. But what I'm most interested in is, once we get those scores, what do they mean? Do they actually measure what we intended them to do? And within that, we also do a lot of program evaluation work, local industry, schools, nonprofits. And welcome to the session, and look forward to learning some more from you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Engel. And I'll go quickly, and then we'll kind of jump in and put a roadmap together for you. My name is Brad Shuck. I'm a professor here at the University of Louisville. I teach in the org development, human resource and org development program. My focus over my career has really been about and around employee engagement and organization development, and most recently, how work is impacting physical health. And how we can either help people flourish or help people not get sick based on some work-based experiences. So with that, let's jump into our deck today. A couple of quick things, just an overview. We want to talk a little bit about why UofL, why a PhD, some of the benefits. We want to give some time to each of the specializations to talk about what their unique area does. I want to spend some time talking a little bit about courses, the admissions process, and tuition. Probably most importantly, we want to leave a significant amount of time for Q&A at the end of this, because we know that your questions may be really nuanced. We want to make sure that while we've got the experts here in the room, that we can really kind of dig into that. So a lot of you may already know that UofL is a Research 1 institution, but may not know what that means in terms of research output. This is the highest Carnegie class that we can be. And so the faculty that are here today and on the webinar and who are going to be teaching you in those classes are really terrific, internationally renowned scholars in their fields. And so when we hear Dr. George talk about her research interests, or we hear Dr. Engel, these are people that that are getting calls and emails frequently about the kinds of work that they do. The College of Education here at the University of Louisville is ranked number 3 for grants. That is important because you can see the research output that comes from that. So not only are we a Research 1, but we also are very, very active in pursuing new lines of research through grants. We talked about the distinguished faculty, and I think what's really unique about our program is how we involve doctoral students in every part of the research process. So presenting at conferences, publishing papers, writing case studies, and even helping to teach classes at times when that's of interest to the students. And so the meaningful interaction that you're going to get here at the university, we think separates us and is a real differentiator. We do have 4 specializations, and we'll go through each of those here in just a second. In terms of a PhD, there are some things that you want to think through. One of the questions that we often will ask in an interview is, why do you want to get a PhD? Tell us about what a PhD is going to provide you that you may not already have. And so thinking through the motivation and the career goals that are directly related to what's your purpose here, and how do we align your purpose with a particular specialization or particular line of research. Those become really important. The motivation piece of this becomes critical, particularly post comps when you're writing. And that writing process is just a function of sitting in front of a computer and being disciplined to write those chapters and get that done. And the motivation piece is something that we pay a lot of attention to. The initiative and the finances, it's important to have conversations with your community, your support community, around what's this going to mean? How may this change some things over the next couple of years? What's my family support? What's my personal support? What's my network? How am I going to navigate some of this? And then also the time management and the work-life balance piece of this. A lot of our students come into the PhD program as working professionals. The work-life balance piece of that becomes a really critical piece of information to really think through. How will I structure my weekends? How would I structure my mornings? How do I want to structure my afternoons? When am I going to have my writing time in? When am I going to get my reading time in? How will I balance that with some of the other obligations that I've got in my life? And these are going to be conversations that you want to have as you begin thinking about applying in for a PhD program. The motivation piece, the initiative, your support network, and then how do you integrate all of this into an experience that allows you to get the most out of a PhD program. There are some significant benefits. I will oftentimes tell students that I get a chance to work with, I think a terminal degree like this will open doors that you don't even see yet. You know, once you cross the stage and you high five and shake hands and put the hood on and you do all this stuff, you begin to see professional doors that just appear that maybe weren't there a few months ago because of the degree and what you've learned through the process. But you're also going to become really comfortable with uncertainty. You're going to be comfortable with looking at articles and being skeptical about that, asking really good questions. Well, how do we know that? When Dr. Emicus is talking about his work in psychometrics and looking at, gosh, we say this measures compassion, but how do we know? Well, there's some ways to look at that, right? And so we become very comfortable with uncertainty. Looking at complex problems and going to find evidence-based answers to those problems is something that you're going to take away. Maybe one of the most important benefits is just a network. And, you want to build your network before you need it. And so as you go through classes and as you develop relationships with your faculty, you're going to build a network of professional colleagues. And the world of academics is small. And it's amazing how we know people at this school and that school, and we're all connected through conferences. And the career opportunities here are enormous. Whether you want to stay in the academic lane, whether you want to stay in the practitioner lane, or whether you want to have a foot in both of those worlds, what I think you're going to see is that the career opportunities that are going to be present for you once you complete the degree are going to be well worth the time investment, and they're going to be really, really vast. So we have some contacts. Our 4 specializations are human resources and org development, P12 education, post-secondary education, and sports administration. And there are faculty contacts for each of those specializations, and though we have these listed here for you. But with that, I want to turn it over to Dr. Engel to talk a little bit about P12 Ed Leadership and the specialization that they have there.
Sure. We've got these, as part of the PhD program, you've got 4 basic components of coursework. You've got the research core, you've got the leadership core, And then we've got the dissertation hours, which are towards the end. And then you also have your emphasis hours. So what we do is you take the core courses across with all of the students that are, regardless of whether they're in other emphasis areas. And then you have the research core that everybody takes together, and then you start to branch out and get into your emphasis area coursework. So we've got graduate coursework. So those of you that may be interested in getting licensed as a principal, this is something that we can embed into the coursework that you get along the way while you're working on your PhD. Superintendency courses, certifications, that's another thing that we can do as a part of this. And there's so there's a little bit of flexibility there in terms of which courses that you get, and you can select courses that may be specialized for your research interest in a particular area of P12 educational leadership. We also would like to have students that are interested in being full-time, to where we could maybe offer assistantships and have opportunities to engage in meaningful ways with the research process with some of our research faculty that we have here. Okay.
Dr. Engel, thank you so much. Dr. George, would you mind to talk about post-secondary admin?
Hi, sure. So our track in post-secondary education is really focused on the many functions and roles and responsibilities that colleges and universities serve in our society, but also looking at programs and policies that impact students' access to those institutions as well as their outcomes. So we are really looking to help prepare or advance individuals who are already working in higher education or who seek to work in higher education settings or related entities such as the Department of Education, Institute of Education Sciences, Council on Post-Secondary Education. We're looking to help prepare them to become better consumers, critical consumers of literature, of research, and also to use data in their jobs. So we are helping prepare some individuals to go the faculty route, but others, we even want to see practitioners who are continuing to work in nonprofits and government institutions and organizations and institutions to use data in their day-to-day position. So really connecting that research to practice, being driven and informed by theory, looking at frameworks that help us understand student outcomes. And so we're hoping to help advance our students' understanding and use of those tools so that they can better help students that they are in contact with and better position their institutions to become successful.
Thank you, Dr. George. Dr. Hancock.
You ready? Good. Awesome. Well, again, welcome everybody, and thank you to the LEAD team for providing this opportunity. Folks who pursue a PhD in sport administration really do so for three primary reasons: because they want to teach and do research in the field of sport administration. And when I'm using that term, I'm using it very broadly, whether we're talking about youth and recreation sport, all the way up to professional sport, international sport, governing bodies. They use it to enhance their work as a practitioner, especially in the collegiate setting. So I know that we have a number of folks who are either on this call, who are going to be part of our program, who are interested in getting a PhD, because it will provide an ample opportunity for them to be seen in kind of an understanding of status. When you're sitting at a table with a president and a provost and you have a PhD behind your name, certainly it does elicit a level of status, but an understanding of what it takes to be a researcher, particularly in a Research One institution. And some folks use it as a second career opportunity. So once they've left the sport realm, to come back and teach and to educate students and help students build that network as well. So when this is finished, I'm going to ask that if Dr. Shuck or Susan will send out SPAD doctoral tips that we have, because ultimately for us, it's really about helping you learn to teach and convey information, but also the best questions to ask, whether you're a practitioner, whether you're a researcher, so that you can perform research that's going to inform the field and that practitioners can use from years to come, from consumer behavior to an understanding of sociology and sport.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Hancock. And then the last specialization is the HROD specialization. And this is all about learning, development, performance, workplaces, culture, how work is shifting. certainly there are lots and lots of questions right now about what the future of work is going to look like, and the specialization in HROD is really uniquely situated in that conversation. People come to our program from a variety of different backgrounds, including workforce education, including higher ed, including nonprofit leadership. But it would be those folks who are really interested in the HR component of that, and then the OD piece of that. A lot of times, those interested students who are coming into the HROD specialization are working full-time in organizations, and they want that PhD to support career advancement or career growth, or if they're looking to teach in the classroom. But we really push that research to practice pipeline. I love how Dr. George talked about that and how Dr. Hancock really kind of brought that to life. So the HROD specialization is all about right now future work and what that's going to mean over the next couple of years. There are really, as Dr. Engel talked about, there are three main components to the PhD. The first is the research, and there is a core set of research classes that students take that will expose you to a variety of different methodologies and how do you gather data, how do you understand data, how do you make meaning of that data. If we're going to put a research to practice pipeline in there, we have to really lean in hard on the research piece of it. The second is the professional specialization, and this is the coursework that's going to uniquely align with the specialization that you might choose. So sport administration, post-secondary, P12 or HROD. And then there's elective courses that you're going to take. And if you were to come into when you apply and come into the program, you'll have an advisor that will help you put together a program of study and help you choose electives that allow you to really specialize in a cognate area that continues to build on even a more nuanced component of the specialization that you might look at. So for example, in HROD, if you came in, there's a set of HROD classes that you would take, but maybe you want to focus on positive psychology, or maybe you want to focus on talent acquisition, or if you were in post-secondary, you wanted to look at equity and access issues when it comes to perhaps financial aid or admissions, or how the Supreme Court is hearing cases right now that may change how we look at admissions criteria. That cognate becomes really important to allowing you to build a program of study that will help you advance your goals, whatever those goals might be. Courses are a mixed delivery. So in our program, we have some classes that are in person. We have some classes that are hybrid. Some classes are completely online. We have full-time students and part-time students. A great majority of our students come to us part-time. They typically enroll in up to 2 courses per semester. Summer coursework is optional, but if you're enrolling full-time in the program, you're looking at 3 to 4 courses a semester. And I think you'll be surprised how quickly that goes by in terms of how quickly you complete your coursework. I would want you to know, and I think all the faculty on here would want you to know, that the program is an accommodating program for students, whether you come to us full-time or you come to us part-time. We use a really student-centered approach and an appreciative student-centered approach, where we do everything that we can to accommodate schedules and help you develop goals that integrate back into your life. And so that's why we provide classes in a variety of different delivery options. It's how we set you up with an advisor and then stay with you through the program as kind of a commitment to seeing you through to graduation. The application deadline is February the 1st for fall 2023. We have 2 admission cycles. One is in October, and then the second one and the last one for fall 2023 is going to be February 1st. So if you're looking to start this fall, you want to make sure you get that app in prior to February 1st. A couple of steps for that. You want to complete the application online. It's just a simple graduate application. It's a way to let the graduate school know, like, hey, I'm interested, I'm coming, I want to apply. You want to submit your resume or your curriculum vitae. You want to provide a goal statement of between 18 to 1,500 words. And that goal statement is a way to communicate to the admissions committee what's your intended purpose. What do you really want to do? What do you hope to get out of this? Why do you want to pursue a PhD? You'll provide 3 letters of recommendation. You'll submit all of your official transcripts. And as of right now, the GRE is a requirement for admission into the program. We would expect that to change over the course of the next academic year, where the GRE will become an optional component to the application, and we'll be asking for an additional writing sample on top of that. But right now, the way the policy reads is we do require the GRE scores for the February 1st application deadline. If and when that changes, trust me, you'll be the first folks to know about that. Because I know for many of us, the GRE is something that, gosh, if I didn't have to take that, I probably wouldn't. There is more information on our website in terms of even student testimonials. You can read through and see recent graduates, what they're doing now, how they're looking at it. And then there's more detailed information about the application process. And then just for financial planning and tuition information, I think what's helpful on this page is not only to see the cost, the current tuition rates, but also information about scholarships. The college and the university provide ample scholarships. Dr. Engel mentioned full-time students and coming in as graduate assistants. If that's something that you're interested in, there's an application for you to fill out, and then we'll let you know after an application or an admissions decision is made. And then there are other things called fellowships, which are very competitive at the university level. We would encourage you to look at all three of these as a way to help support your progress through the program. So with that, what I want to do is kind of open it up to any questions that folks might have, and see what is it that we can answer for you. What questions might you have? What's not clear yet? What can we do to help make the process a little smoother, or even demystify the PhD process? Anybody have any questions? Yeah, please.
So some of the things that you might find helpful if you're thinking, is this something that I want to do right now? Is this, can I jump all the way in? And really thinking about courses. One of the approaches that you might want to use if you're not necessarily ready to commit to a full program is use this as an opportunity, particularly if you are an employee of the university, to use that tuition remission benefit to take a class. See how that fits in with you working full time, what that workload is like, how manageable it is with one class. And if you're thinking, you know what, I can handle this one class thing, maybe I can take 2 classes, or this is something that I can definitely see myself doing. You know, there is no penalty to that, especially if you were to start as a non-degree seeking student. Those courses can transfer to your academic program if you choose to pursue that. So those are just some things to think about if you want to test the waters, but you're not necessarily ready to enter into a full program. Again, it's an opportunity to figure out what course loads are going to be and how that fits in with your full-time work schedule, but also your full-time life schedule.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Hancock. Natalie?
Thank you so much. I actually saw that Dr. George answered my question. I was piqued, had my interest piqued by what Dr. Hancock said about tuition benefit, and I think that is incredibly appealing. I currently am not employed by the university, but now I am. That might be a good first step. Huh. Thank you.
Absolutely. I see a hand raised. Oh, yeah, Crystal.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So Dr. Hancock, you were talking about maybe just trying like one class at a time with our tuition remission. So is it the same process, like as if you were actually going to be accepted to the program? How does that work?
So that is a very good question that I don't know the full answer to, Crystal. So I do know that there is, even as a non-degree seeking student, you do still have to go through an application process. It is not, say, the full PhD process at this time. That is something that you would go through once you've said, okay, I do want to commit to this program. And then you would work with your advisor to work on transferring those credits over. So there's some kind of administrative behind the scenes work with that. But for now, I would say in our college, you would work with our graduate Office of Graduate Student Success to figure out what it would mean to be a non-degree seeking student, and go through kind of that process. I think it's relatively simple, though it does still require things like transcripts. So just be aware of that. But that is a good first way to start. And we've got a fantastic team in graduate student success, and Nina Marjanovic and Dr. Margaret Pentecost. So I would say definitely connect with them, and they will be able to walk you through that process.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I have just one kind of follow-up question. Is there like a range in ages, or is there kind of like a median like of students who are pursuing the doctorate program here with the College of Education?
Is there a range of ages? This is a good question.
Well, is there, like, I know there's a range of ages. So like, would we be working in like with like younger, or are they people maybe like in their just getting out of like their masters and at an appropriate age, like out of high school, the bachelor's and then masters, like, or is it are there also people that maybe have been in the workforce for a number of years and are coming back to do education?
Yeah, that is, can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. That's a great question. You're going to find students in class that oftentimes are in the workforce and have been there. We don't have a whole lot of students that come bachelor's, master's, PhD, and part of that is the emphasis that we put on the practical application of the degree. There are some, but the great majority of the folks that you're going to be in class with, and we think that makes this really special, is you're with people who are doing it in the field, and applying that information from the class back to the workplace, wherever that workplace might be, whether that's in a higher education setting, whether that's in a college athletics setting, whether that's as a principal, or whether that's as a chief learning officer for a large corporation someplace. That's a really, really great question. Yeah. Matthew?
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, Crystal. You bet. Matthew?
Yeah, kind of a two-part question. And Dr. Hancock, you may have answered this at some point, but the cohorts for you guys, I'm going to be doing it part-time. And how does that work with full-time? Will you be with other part-times, of course, but maybe full-time? So you're not always with the same cohort, but for the relative, you try to stay with them, but you're not on the same time schedule.
So I can answer that from a sport administration program perspective and a little bit more broadly. When you are part of a cohort, it's particularly in your research courses, you'll be taking those with students from all across the LEAD program, and in some cases, maybe all across the college, depending on the type of course that's offered. When it comes to sport administration specifically, you will be taking those classes with your doctoral cohort. Now, because you're a part-time student, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll be taking them in the same succession with full-time students, but it does mean that you'll always be in there with sport administration students. So, for example, right now, you're starting in the spring, the course that the doctoral seminar that we have in the spring has full-time and part-time students in there, and those students will continue in those doctoral seminars as it fits their schedule, but ultimately you'll be required to take them all. Does that help answer that question?
Yes.
And Matthew, you had a second part.
Oh, thank you.
I was just going to ask best practices for people that are getting back into the learning environment after being away for a while, even though if you've done it for several years, I'd love to hear best practices on getting back in to be successful.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's one of the reasons that we recommend the fall start date, because we have a kind of a doctoral introduction class, LEAD 710. which is really designed to help ramp up that process. So like, where do you go to find some of these articles, or like, what are the study skills that I need, or what are the kinds of, how much time is this going to take, and how do I figure all this out? The LEAD 710 class is really built around socialization into the doctoral experience. And what is it that you're going to be doing over the next couple of years as you not only take classes, but you start thinking about your questions, right? Like, all right, what am I really interested in? What do I want to lean into? What do I really love? And even start thinking about, and this is a little way off, so don't be nervous about this, but your dissertation, right? And what's that going to mean for you? So the LEAD 710 class is really helpful. But I wonder, are there any other faculty that have like best practices, things you would recommend as folks get back into the learning environment?
Sure, I'll jump in. So one thing I recommend is really getting to know your cohort members and your peers. You all can create study groups, writing groups, just kind of help each other navigate the process. And if I think about on my own graduate experience, like I still have those connections and I still talk with those individuals. We do research together. And so starting to develop those relationships now is really important to help you get through the program, but also thinking long-term about kind of what practitioner or scholar you want to become. And the other thing I want to point out is that we do have a graduate student success office in the College of Education, and we have wonderful staff there. They also have a lot of programming to help support students, particularly students who are working full-time. For instance, as you get further on, as Dr. Shuck said, into your dissertation process, there are writing Saturdays where you have the opportunity to come together with other individuals who may just need to get out of the house or may need a block of time on a Saturday to focus on their writing. So we have support structures like that to help individuals be successful. We don't want to see you fail. We're here to help you succeed from the beginning. So we hope that we have mechanisms in place to help you feel supported and successful, and that you have the outcome that you want to see.
I can
Yeah,
see
maybe just to elaborate, is for many of our students, returning students, they might typically are more part-time. So they're also have competing interests with their work, family, life. And so one of the best things to do is kind of set up a routine. And usually what I found is people with work, the families, is they kind of will get up 2 hours before everybody else, where that's just your time. And oftentimes people are like, well, I'll do it this afternoon or this evening. It never happens because you get pulled in all those other directions with life. And so the people that we've seen, for example, our P through 12 EDD program is for, school administrators, people with very heavy workloads. And as Dr. Engel can attest to, is those who have that set routine, that schedule, that do not deviate from that, very much you have that structure in place where you're kind of meeting your deadlines. You have that built-in structure. You really want to protect that. The second thing I would just recommend is just be proactive with talking to your instructors. This is who I am. And you'll get to meet them anyway, but just letting people, and I teach all of our stat methods courses, so I have everyone from across the college, university, and we're all very student friendly, like Dr. Shuck said, but the best things to do is just be proactive. So that way we're always kind of working together proactively, instead of like putting out the fire at the end of the semester where it's just kind of a dumpster fire. We're a little less forgiving at that point, but if we start up front together, we're more of a team.
Awesome. Good advice. Good advice. Don't be a dumpster fire. That's the one thing you might take away from the webinar today. That's a good one. That's a good one. Derek, I see you've had your hand up, man.
Thank you so much. I am appreciative of not being a dumpster fire, but I've been known to be that in the past a little bit. But I know a lot of you all and have talked with you all about some of my concerns, and I really want to do this again. I was admitted back in 2006, so it was this century, but it was a while ago. So I've taken half of my coursework either here or at LSU, and each time I get admitted, I take a new job somewhere else, which is always difficult. So I know my coursework is probably a little dated, and I don't like the fact of having to consider starting all the way over, but I'm willing to do it because it's something that really is a goal of mine, and it's the next step in my career. My question is more about your flexibility, because I loved hearing that you were flexible. What if my interest aligned with 2 different units on campus? So for instance, definitely been working in sport for 22 years, but I'm more interested now in social justice in sport. And when I was completing my work before, it was more human resource management in higher education, and also creating that better mousetrap for academic support and athletics. So it's always straddled the fence in those areas. So I just wanted to hear kind of what interest your program would have in working with others to create a not necessarily a hybrid program, but a program that is more amenable to my career that I've been working on for these many years.
So Derek, one of the things that I think is nice about the way that this program is structured is you are allowed electives, and it's usually in those electives where students really build programs that are conducive to their research interests and their professional interests. So for example, I have a doctoral student in the spring that will be taking courses in Pan-African studies and women and gender studies, because that's going to expose her, one, to a different network, which is great, but two, to some different theoretical frameworks and philosophical underpinnings that we don't necessarily cover in sport administration. And so we're working to make sure that those are going to fulfill, one is actually going to fulfill a research component because it is a qualitative methodology course, but the other one will fulfill an elective component to help her better align her research interests and her professional interests. So there is flexibility, particularly when it comes to those elective courses and really thinking about how you can use courses from other units to not only move you toward graduation, but really help you build a broader knowledge base that it's going to contribute to the work that you do from a research perspective and from a practitioner perspective.
The other thing, thank you, Dr. Hancock. The other thing I'll add is, Derek, you'd have the opportunity to have faculty from outside the college in other programs be on your committee, which I have found to be incredible and just super sources of knowledge. And I love that we are flexible enough to allow other paradigms and ideas into the program, because we think that's really important. I think you'll find we really celebrate that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Tamika.
Hi. Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. My question kept changing as you start answering everybody else's questions, but now my question is, can you speak more about the committee? Because I don't know much about that, and I always thought they were chosen at the end, but is this, can you like elaborate on that?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. And I'm happy to take this. And if I get this wrong, somebody just poke me and correct me. So when you come into the program, you're going to have what's called a program committee, which is a group of faculty that are in your area that help you choose classes that are going to allow you to pursue a cognate or that specialization or those elective classes that are really going to round out your experience. And Tamika, you'll find at a university, there's just a lot of paperwork. So there's a form for this that we're going to fill out. We're all going to sign this form together, and your chair is going to help you with it. So it isn't something that you need to like go figure out on your own, or like good luck with that. You can expect your advisor to help you with this. And then when you get to the comprehensive exams, and then even into your dissertation, that committee may grow a little bit. We'll pull an outside member from somebody outside of our specific unit, which is where when Derek is talking about drawing from different colleges or programs or paradigms, we begin pulling in those experts that are really honing in on a comprehensive exam or a dissertation topic. And again, your chair is going to help you with that. And you'll be surprised to know that there's another form for that. And so we'll help you fill that form out, and we'll get that all signed for you and get that in for sure. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Madison?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm coming into this super certain about which specialization I'm interested in and then sort of broad goals within that. But when it comes to a specific research area of interest, I'm much less confident in which direction I would go. So I'm just wondering, is the expectation for a candidate to come in with a really clear idea of a direction, or is there room sort of for exploration of that with the initial coursework?
Dr. Georgia, I see you shaking your head. Would you want to take this one on?
Sure, it's a great question. It's one we get often. I think it's fine if you come in with a general idea. You're applying to the program for a reason, right? It's not just to get those 3 letters after your name, but I think being open to new ideas, new theories, new methods is very important as you're developing as a future researcher. The Ted Lasso says, be curious, right? Like it's a good thing to be curious. So we want to see somebody who's interested in learning, to being open to new ideas, to making new connections, and see where that goes. And we often see for the students who do have a specific idea when they come in, it often changes. And so I would say encourage you to be flexible with that and just be open, but generally speak about why you're motivated to pursue the program in your statement. And with us, if you do an interview with us after the application is reviewed, speak to us as to what's motivating you, what keeps you up at night, what has driven you to this point in your career.
Okay, thanks. That's very helpful. Thanks.
And Dr. Hancock, if I'm not mistaken, you're teaching a Ted Lasso class in the spring. Is that right?
That is correct.
So not only can you develop really in-depth research skills and learn about incredible topics with amazing renowned faculty, but you could take a class on Ted Lasso. Not bad. Not bad. Natalie, did you have another question?
Yes, sir, I did.
Let's do it.
I'm not quite who said it. It might have been Dr. George. Somebody mentioned a CLO, a Chief Learning Officer. And I just thought that was fascinating from a corporate perspective. I'm currently director in a nonprofit, but I work a lot with corporations and I work with the C-suite. And there's just a lot of potential to have a very high income job in that field. And I had not considered how this program might be applicable to the corporate world and that income earning potential. So I was just, if we could talk about other opportunities career-wise that I might not have been thinking about, that I would love to look up more opportunities.
Yeah, so I'll take that just because from the CLO perspective, what we're seeing in the field, particularly in HR, is that there are new categories of executive positions that are being developed almost monthly. Yeah. So things like Chief Wellbeing Officer, Chief Experience Officer, Chief Learning Officer, Chief Engagement Officer. These are things that a degree like this will prepare you for. Now, here's what I think is important is maybe you want to be an athletic director, or you want to be a really highly paid consultant in higher education. You want to be a chief learning officer. You want to build a cognate area that will help you get those skills. And it's kind of what I love about Derek's original question around, like, what if I'm interested in a bunch of these things? So for example, maybe if you're interested in being a chief well-being officer, you're taking classes in public health, or you're taking classes over in communications or in the Kent School of Social Work to begin to kind of round out all of that knowledge that you need to build a program that helps you achieve those goals. The other thing is how and what you write your dissertation on can really position you in a field as a thought leader. So a dissertation is new knowledge, things we don't know yet, right? And there's a lot about work right now that we're still kind of untangling. I did a webinar last week, and the analogy I used was, right now work's kind of like paint by number. Like, we see the outline of it, we know what colors go where, but we're kind of filling in the dots as we go. And as we do that, the picture is beginning to emerge, but it's not fully complete yet. And so if somebody was interested in the world of work right now, there's a lot of fertile ground to build a lot of new knowledge about things that we don't even know, probably haven't even invented yet. Like, I wonder how the leader's going to change. Like, what will a leader mean the same thing in 10 years as it does right now? And if it doesn't, do we have adequate training and development in place to build those competencies? Probably not. What are those competencies? And so you can use a dissertation to really build a brand to then elevate thought leadership in a way that positions you not only differently in the academic world, but also in the practice world as well.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Other questions? Other advice from faculty that are on the call today? What have we not talked about that we probably should touch on? Cool. Okay. Well, we'll wrap up our time today, but by no means is the conversation over. The contact information for each of the specializations is available to you. Certainly, you can reach out to me as the PD for the PhD program. Begin thinking about probably what's going to happen is after we get off this call, an hour later, you're going to be like, man, I wish I'd asked that one question, or I really want to talk more about this area. Please reach out to us. Please, please, please. The other thing I want to encourage you to apply. And I want you to know that we're anticipating that. We're excited about the idea of you coming into the program and being a part of what we've got going on here at the University of Louisville. And I hope that you've seen just from this interaction that we've all had together, we have fun, that we enjoy being around each other. We have fun with the research piece of it. And I think that's important. Culture's got to be a good fit here too. We want you to know that you belong here and that you're a part of, and that this is something you're not doing alone, but you're doing it with other people who are committed with you. So the next application deadline is February the 1st. Yeah, February the 1st. So you've got almost 45 days or so. Yeah.
After that one.
Yep. After that one would be October the 1st. October the 1st. Great question. Great question. Well, listen, happy holidays to everyone. I wish you and your family the absolute best and a terrific new year. We hope to hear from you over the next couple of weeks. Please, if you have a question, reach out to us. Let us know how we can be helpful and supportive in your journey. And I can't emphasize this enough. We cannot wait to see your application. We cannot wait. So thanks for considering the University of Louisville. Thanks for considering being a part of our program and our community here. Have a terrific holiday season, everyone. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. This was great.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Talk
You're
soon.
welcome. Bye, guys. Take care.
Susan.
Oops. Melissa.
Everybody jumped on.
Hey, how are you?
I didn't mean to push the button. I was wanting to talk to Brett. Maybe you can just tell me.
Okay.
So, okay, I'm in higher education. I've been going crazy trying to figure out my path.
Yes.
Okay, so with this degree with the PhD, do they have a list maybe of potential career, job titles in a way that you can kind of, best fit your need of where you want to be, as far as what type of job, if I continue through higher education, right?
Yeah.
And get a degree in the educational leadership and organizational development, right?
Right.
So it's how do I relate ELOD with higher education and kind of find some potential job titles to be able to, focus in on a certain area. Hopefully I'm making sense.
Well, with higher ed too, I think it just drills down into which area is best for you. Yeah. Are you best in curriculum and being a faculty member, or are you best in operations and being on the staff side where you're the dean or the director for student affairs, right?
Okay.
So I think you have to decide what part of higher ed do you best fits you and that you really, love.
Okay.
Yeah, because really the faculty side will always teach, always. That is their first responsibility, is to teach. They have to
Right.
also research depending on the university, and then service. So in their contracts, yeah. I was just talking to someone last night, had a long conversation. So she didn't understand how higher ed operates. She doesn't understand the organizational chart,
Yeah,
right?
the student government, honey. That student governance is a mess. It's hard to try to figure out. It's not that complicated, but it's just so broad.
It's either, yeah, and you have to understand like the red book. So for instance, for you, go read UofL's red book. That will absolutely enlighten you as to how does the University of Louisville operate, because it is extraordinarily eye-opening if you're unfamiliar. Yeah. So if I were to give you any action item or anything to do, read the red book. All you do is go to Louisville. Yep. Just go to Louisville EDU, our homepage, and in the search field, type in red book.
Okay.
That's it.
That way
And
I can
start
just get a
reading
better
it.
understanding of where I want to land, because I think that as I continue this master's, I can just continue to pick up, just imagine a puzzle the way I'm looking at it. A puzzle that's completed.
Yes.
Or not necessarily completed, maybe just puzzles scattered and I have the border, right? And I'm actually trying to pick pieces to figure out, okay, based upon, all these things that I'm learning, I'm trying to, with having this opportunity of higher ed, maybe to just really buckle down and focus on where do I best fit, and just use that, instead of, I guess, me, I've been running with like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to figure out where I belong.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's for you. Yeah, for you, try to read the red book or go to the table of contents and just look, because you'll be a little bit overwhelmed. But just remember that we're a business.
Right.
We're a business just like any other company. The problem is, not a problem, but we are publicly funded.
Yeah.
We're not for profit, private, or we're so everything we do is subject to state, to the state, and we have to obviously report to Frankfort, Kentucky. But in the big picture, though, for you, if you stay in higher ed, it's changing every day, Valissa. And at the end of the day, the goal is to serve the student.
Serve the student.
Whether you're either teaching or you're providing services, right? That's the business.
Right.
Is we teach and we educate. And then you just have to figure out what side of the playing field are you going to be on. Are you going to be on the faculty side, and you're going to teach and do your PhD so you can actually teach and be in the classroom and help students? Or are you wanting to be on that service side where you make sure they understand where their resources are, what is the disabilities, they understand more about just going to class.
Right. Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So when you get a chance, just go to the the table of contents rather, for Red Book, because it's overwhelming, but I think it's a great starting point for you just to read it briefly or to skim certain parts of it.
Okay. Huh. Okay.
Well, we're going to send the recording out, and then Meg gave me a couple of PDFs, that she wants me to send.
But I tried
and it may or may not be applicable for you, but
definitely not at the time, but it's good to at least learn.
Yeah. Okay. But keep me posted on how you're doing. I'm out of the office after today. I'm using vacation hours and trying to get my vacation hours used so I don't lose them. And then I'll be back on Tuesday, the 3rd with you. So if you need anything, you text me if you need me for anything.
Okay. Okay.
All right, girl. Well, listen, I hope you have a wonderful holiday with your son and and a happy new year.
Thank you. You too, Susan.
Yeah.
You too.
All right. Well, girl, I'm gonna let you go. I've got a meeting at 1, so I'm gonna
have a good one.
I'll sign off. You too. Take care.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.